Greetings, fellow Shakespeareans! Now, this video does not cover the entire content of this page, so make sure that you've read what's at the top of the page before you get to this video, okay? Now, I've already mentioned several times how sometimes people get kind of fixated on what it means to interpret literature correctly. Now, I hope the recordings of Daniel Radcliffe and Alan Rickman were enough to convince you that we can gain quite a lot from different interpretations, different people's performances and interpretations of literature. That's why we keep coming back to the same stories after generations, because each generation of readers and teachers and critics and students find new ways to make those works relevant. And if we can't find ways to make those works relevant, those works don't get taught or they don't get read. So now, though I'm celebrating different interpretations, that doesn't mean anything goes. If you are interpreting a work and putting a spin on it that's not textually supported, then there may be lots of lines of inquiries and possible ways to get into a literary work, but if you're working against the text, then those interpretations really aren't, they're not going to fly in a classroom setting. But I do want to keep returning to the idea that being correct is not what I'm worried about. Being correct is not enough. You can be correct and still leave a lot to be desired. And for that demonstration, I'm going to introduce you to my friend, which is the synthetic voice Alex from my MacBook. I asked Alex to read some Shakespeare for us.
Shakespeare's Sonnet 23, read by the synthetic voice Alex, on a MacBook Air, as an unperfect actor on the stage who with his fear is put besides his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, overcharged with burden of mine own love's might. Oh, let my books be then the eloquence and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense more than that tongue that more hath more expressed. Oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ, to hear with eyes belongs to love's fine wit. We've briefly covered definitions, and rhythm, and with this brief lesson I'm calling attention to punctuation. Don't come to a full stop at the end of a line if there's no punctuation. For example, lines 5-8 are punctuated like this. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, overcharged with burden of mine own love's might. They are not punctuated like this, so I for fear of trust forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, overcharged with burden of mine own love's might. If we leave out the punctuation altogether, we have this, so I for fear of trust forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, overcharged with burden of mine own love's might.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex.
You're welcome.
Now, in truth, we don't know for sure how Shakespeare would have punctuated these lines. And in fact, scholars often disagree about such things. And, there are probably fistfights and so forth through history over punctuating Shakespeare's lines. Now, Alex is delivering the lines correctly. He's following all the rules that a programmer gave him in order to pronounce the words and respond to the punctuation, but he doesn't understand the poetry. So what do you think? If you keep in mind the context that you've learned about Elizabethan love poetry, and you keep in mind the structure of a sonnet, and if you look up the unfamiliar words and you think about the rhythms and you think about the punctuation, can you improve upon Alex, the synthetic voice's reading of this sonnet? Well, your assignment is to do just that. Upload a recording of yourself reciting this sonnet, and then when you're finished with that, say a little something about this experience. What were you happy about? What surprised you? What did you struggle with? How did the technology work out? If you'd like to be extra and you want to find the perfect setting and use props and find an on-camera person for you to deliver these lines to, go for it. But it's also perfectly fine just for you to upload an audio recording. So start your audio recording like this. Just say Shakespeare Sonnet 23 read by your name. And when you're finished with your recitation, add some kind of response. If you like, you could give that response in text after you've uploaded your video. You could record the poem and the analysis or your response separately and splice them together. But do just upload a single video file. You could also upload a textual explanation if you would like. Now, if this were an in-person class, we would do all of this in class. There'd be no homework. you just do it in class and that would be it. And we probably wouldn't do the video. It would just be something we would do live and in person. So bear that in mind as you budget your time. Now, the audiovisual stuff, the media stuff, is a part of this class, and we'll be using it more throughout the semester. And I always feel if there's something that's going to make students, if they'll need a little bit of time to get it right, I'd rather start earlier than later. So if you do run into a problem with this technology, my office phone number is in the syllabus. Call my office phone number and record the speech as leave a voicemail message. That would be perfectly fine if you have some problem with the technology, and we can figure out the rest of it later. Okay? All right, so bear in mind, this is the equivalent of an in-class activity. Don't kill yourself on it, but hey, if you want to have fun with it, that will be great. So I'm very much looking forward to hearing and possibly seeing your takes on this sonnet. Happy reading, and I'll see you again soon.